Alright, g'day. This is Nick from Noregretspt Training, and I've got Ben, one of our really excellent trainers here, and he's got some unique qualifications and talents that he brings to our team. And anyway, today we're going to do a video specifically on rotator cuff problems for the shoulder, which was been a request from people before. So we're going to try and explain this one in the step-by-step process on how you sort of know where to start and then what to do, and most importantly in what order, because the order makes a big difference. So I'm going to use Ben here in a lot of the exercises and stretches and assessments, so you can sort of get an idea of how to do them. Alright, so we're going to show firstly, the first thing to do is a postural assessment for the thoracic spine. Alright, so you'd want to do a full-on postural assessment. Just for the sake of video, I don't want to take too much time, so I'm going to just go specifically to the main area of problem. So we're going to get Ben to do the thoracic spine test. So basically he's going to line up against the wall here. His head's going to be against the wall. He's got his arms dead straight, and what we want to see is he lift his arms up without any part of his back coming off the wall. So he should be able to get his, if he had great thoracic spine flexibility, he'd be able to get his hands and his arms flat on the wall without any of his lower back coming off. And he's actually not too bad, because we're working on it just before we filmed this, and he's a little bit better than what we saw before. So that's an example of where to start. Most people have their arms sort of coming forward, so Ben pulled his arms forward towards a little bit more. That'd be really sort of what we see most people, and especially with shoulder problems, and that is why the shoulder is in pain, because the rib cage is getting pulled down, right? And you'll see as we do more of this video how much of a problem that becomes. All right, so in a second I'm going to show you the stretches and how you mobilise that area to then prepare it for movement. All right, so here we are, we're back with Ben now, and what we're going to show you is how to sort of release that tight thoracic spine. At times we use like the big blue foam rollers just to roll on. But what I'm going to show you here is that we use like a little pool noodle, and we whack that right under the base of the scapula, and Ben lies on top of it and then has his arms. So you can see this is almost like the same position as he was against the wall. And you'll keep your knees bent, Ben, because then he keeps his pelvis in a much more neutral alignment. And basically he can just wiggle down towards his feet a little bit more, and that just changes the position of the roller. And basically we're just trying to sort of like loosen him up through his thoracic spine, encourage it to extend. All right, so after we've done that, so we might leave him there for about a minute or so. After we've done that, then we'll flip over and we'll do a pec stretch. Now, Ben's going to show us a really good one here. This is a myofascial one, where we stretch the bicep tendon, the forearm, and the pec at the same time. And basically he's just going to roll over onto his side, so he faces me. So bend your knees a bit for me, Ben, and then roll over. Yep. Keep going, keep going, keep going. And that left knee will come off, the right knee will come off the ground. Yep. There you go. And now he's stretching his pec all the way around, and we're getting a huge release on the whole myofascial chain. Now he'll do the other side, and you'll see his hand pulls back. When he pulls back, that stretches the fascial line from the other end. Really important to stretch the pec minor, because he's a huge factor in pulling that shoulder downwards. They call it a downward rotated shoulder, which is why he can't lift his arms up above his head. All right, so then after we've done that, then we're going to get Ben to do an abdominal stretch. And he's going to drape himself over the ball, because remember, we're trying to encourage really good extension through the thoracic spine and releasing of the abdominal. So you should be able to get his hands almost to reach back behind him like he's going to do a backflip, like a gymnast. So the hands will almost touch the ground. You can see how far above the ground they still are. There you go. And again, we would hold that for about 30 seconds or so. Then after we do that, we're going to stretch the internal rotators using what we call the scratch stretch. So Ben's going to grab a towel, and he's going to turn away from us so we can see what he does. And it's really the hand that's the bottom hand here, so which being his left hand, and he's going to try and pull that up towards his shoulder blade with his right hand. His right hand's trying to help him lift that up. There you go, and then he'll do the other way. And usually for right-handed, you'll be a lot tighter on the right side. The injured side of the shoulder is the one that's hardest to do. All right, so that'd be our main stretches that we would use. There's plenty of other ones to do, but just for this video, we want to save a bit of time and not run out of it. So they're the ones that you would want to pretty much implement. I could safely say nearly everyone I see with a shoulder problem needs those stretches. All right, so in a second we're going to come back and we're going to move into the next step. So that's step 1, assess posture and flexibility. I'm back here with Ben, and what we're going to show you is how important to assess the movement and the strength of the lunge. Yes, I know this is a rotator cuff video and thinking, what the hell's this got to do with it? Well, I'll tell you what, it's got everything to do with it, because when you throw balls or you do anything that requires the power of the rotator cuff, you really need everything comes from the legs first, from the ground up. So what we want to see Ben do is, if he can do a really good lunge for us, we want to assess his movement skill within the lunge. So what we're looking for is to see, firstly, his stance and his posture. And he'll just do a couple in there, like he's a dead straight line. These are beautiful lunges, all right? So we know his movement skills there, but what we'd normally see is something like this, where someone narrows the stance because their stability is really so poor. Their posture's terrible, see how Ben's bending over. There's no way you can devise any good power from that type of a movement, all right? So you need to have an automatic, perfect lunge. On top of the skill of just doing the static one, we need to be able to see if Ben can do a moving one. And what you're watching for here is the trailing leg, his right leg, how it rotates in. And then the pushing off phase where he'll really push off from it as if he's going to sort of generate power sideways, all right? You see that, like Ben does a fair bit of boxing. Any boxer will tell you it'll come from the legs. All right, so now the last part, we will need to see if he has enough strength. So a guy his size should comfortably be able to hold 2 15-kilo dumbbells and do a static lunge for us. So just do a couple of static ones and have no problems with this. And he should be able to get 10 of them on each side. You can see here that Ben's quite competent at doing that, right? So my point here is with this is that you really need to have an understanding that a shoulder injury is rarely actually the shoulder that's the problem. It's probably everything to do with your legs and your trunk, right? So that's step 2. Step 1 was assess the posture flexibility. Step 2 is assess the lunge movement and the leg strength in particular. All right, so we'll see you in a minute for step 3. All right, so I'm back here with Ben, and what we're going to assess now is his rotation. All right, so we've done the assessing the posture and static flexibility. This is sort of like more of a dynamic flexibility, and we're seeing how well he rotates through his trunk. So he's rotating his legs to one side and then the other, and what we're looking for is to see if his shoulders lift off when his legs rotate across. And again, Ben's pretty good. All right, usually what we'll see if he does a bad one for us, as you see the whole arm comes off because the hips are way too tight. If those hips remain tight, there is no way he'll be able to rotate properly. So we must loosen the hips and then teach him how to do it correctly. So once we've sort of done the simple test, and there's other things we could do as well, we want to go straight to like the standing up movement, because the standing up movement is the one where everyone has trouble. So what we want to look for here is to see if Ben can do a standing wood chop. Now this is not really weighted all that heavy. We're just seeing how well his legs weight shift and if he rotates through his trunk correctly. Yeah, and he's pretty good. So you could do with a bit more work on it, but he's not bad. All right. So basically, like we're just seeing if he can like work on his trunk rotation, and like I said, it's not true strength training yet. So when we get to the next stage, you'll start to see the true strength training coming out. All right, so I'll see you in a second for that. Okay, here we are. We're back again, and this time we're starting to develop into the isolated type strength exercises, although I'd argue these are highly unisolated. All right, so firstly, before we move into specific rotator cuff strengthening, we want to assess the stability of the shoulder, and the best place to do that is in a 4-point position. And usually I'll do this in a position where I've got the right or one of the knees kneeling on an unstable platform, and it forces the whole body to work as a unit. And the shoulder is actually very strong in this 4-point position. It's really well protected and stabilised just with the position of the scapula. So this is a great place to start, especially if you're in a fair bit of pain. You're already starting to work out the pushing movement pattern. You can see Ben here is not too bad, but even he's sort of fighting with this one a little bit. This is a great one to start with, just to get the stability that you need to then begin strength training. All right, so once we've done a few of those, then we'll move into external rotation. Now, Ben's going to show us the typical way that most physios and stuff will show you, and everyone would have seen this exercise. If you're a rotator cuff person, you would have probably seen this already. And there's nothing wrong with this exercise, except I just don't think it relates very well to how we really move. And remember what we've already spoken about, the problems are usually with the leg and the trunk. So the way I teach it is to encourage with the weight shift from one side to the other, just like you saw Ben do on the previous exercise. All right, so now he's learning, or he's teaching his body, I must use my leg to instigate it, and I must have a little bit of a trunk, and then the arm is last. Always in that order. You never do that exercise without that. All right. Now, secondary to that, the next exercise is the more advanced rotation, and again, Ben's going to show us the version that most people would sort of be given from the physio, and he's going to have his arm out and he's going to pull out to the side. Yep, like so. And he's just rotating his shoulder back. This is quite hard to do, this exercise. And again, I don't really like this because you would never do this like this. The way you would do it, if you watch Ben's legs, he sets up in his lunge stance. Yep. Now he'll sort of come forward onto his legs, see that? And doesn't this look exactly like throwing a tennis ball, but in rewind? If you were to press rewind on a videotape or something. And that's exactly how you meant to do. You would do it in the real life. So to train it in reverse, that's how you should do it as well. The stance is critical to developing the posterior sling, which is the true use of the core. The last thing you really need to focus on is isolating your lower trap. So Ben's going to show us the cobra exercise. So he lies down on his stomach, comes up into trunk extension, and turns his hands out and holds that there for about 10 seconds. And basically lower traps are just below the scapula. At the base of the scapula, he's trying to sort of lower his shoulders down and hold that there. Anyone with neck pain or shoulder pain, you can safely say this is a real problem muscle, one that weakens itself very, very quickly. All right, so a key component of the strengthening process in this stability and isolated stage. All right, so in a second we'll show you the more integrated exercises where they start to get a bit more fun. All right, so welcome back. I'm here again with Ben, and we're in the sort of power phase of developing the rotator cuff. So this is a phase that's often missed. People are just doing this sort of garbage stuff with TheraBands and hoping it improves them. And I'll tell you now, like, you're wasting your time. So you really need to get one of these little soft shell balls, and they're like a little tiny medicine ball. Really, you can use it for throwing things. So what we don't want to throw forward, we want to throw backward, because the problem is in the braking skills. And when we're doing this, we're sort of working all of the areas that are not as strong, and we're developing the speed of the movement in the way that it should be done. So we're going to watch Ben throw the ball to me. That's it. And you'll get him thrown a bit quicker. There you go, one more. And then we'll get him to do it side on. That's it. One more. Beautiful. Alright, so there's an example of like how to use the soft shell ball. Now we're also going to use a tornado ball, which Ben's going to go over to the wall over here. Tornado balls, or cyclone balls they're sometimes referred to. These are excellent for developing the twisting movement pattern. And what we're using here, Ben's going to go horizontal and then diagonal. Beautiful. All right, so you can see from there how this sort of particular exercise is developing the speed of it. If Ben was going he was like half pace then, just because it's too noisy, but you sort of get the idea of what we're doing with it. And this is really helping him to develop the true movement of the rotator cuff. And so he's almost ready now to go to the next stage, which we're going to show you, which is now he's going to develop the pushing pattern, which is the one that can undo everything if you don't do it right. Right? We're going to show you here, incorporate the rotator cuff and the serratus anterior within the exercise. Back here again with Ben, and we're basically going to show you how to do the chest press now, where we incorporate a couple of therabands into his hand to really fire up the serratus anterior, and the rotator cuff stabilises within the pushing movement. Pushing movement is the one that's going to create all sorts of problems if it's not done right. So I'm going to show you how we add a little TheraBand to Ben to do it, to encourage his stabilisers to work. Alright, so let's get Ben in position. So he pushes his 2 dumbbells up, put the TheraBand in this hand, TheraBand in this hand, then I just apply some gentle resistance behind him while he does the pushing movement. And basically, if you sort of think about it, what I'm doing to him is the actual same rotator cuff exercises we were just showing you a minute ago. We're just incorporating them within a pushing movement. And a lot of people who are in pain when they do this actually don't have any pain when they're doing it this way. So, because we're really forcing the stabilisers to be on the job. So this is an excellent exercise in how to get it back. Alright, so there's how we would treat rotator cuff problems. Doing this sort of stuff, like it has its place, but really sort of think it's more about the posture. It sort of puts everything in the wrong place. Lack of leg strength, which is just not be able to, or movement skill, you just too much instability, just poor skill and coordination, lack of rotation through the trunk, and then not developing the pure speed in the correct position that you need it for. They're all the factors that I would say that are rotator cuff issues. And if you apply some of the stuff we had in this video today, like there's plenty more I left out, I'd highly recommend go and watch all our other videos and go to our website www.noregretspt.com.au, and you'll find heaps more other information about how to do some of the things that I might have missed. But I hope this helps you, and I'll see you in the next video.